Yeah, I'll make a bit of more time for Will too. Yeah, but I'll bring it first. Hello, good evening. Happy Saturday. My name is Ivan Salinas, Programs Manager here at Beyond Baroque. But welcome to the Wanda Coleman Theater. Beyond Baroque is a place dedicated to the possibilities of language, founded in 1968 by George Ray Smith. The space began first as an experimental literary magazine, but it evolved into the interdisciplinary art space it is today. We stand on unceded territory. We are in solidarity with indigenous Tongva, Tataviam, Chumash peoples who have endured colonialism and displacement. We stand against genocide and are committed to provide a space for indigenous artists, their stories, and art. And we recognize that they are the original stewards of this land. The building we stand on currently was first Venice City Hall building up until only for about 60 years or so, from 1903 to 1978, when Beyond Baroque moved in to this place from the original storefront it had just a few blocks away. And since then, it has been a space for legendary artists and poets, mainly, including Emery Baraka, Wanda Coleman, of course, Bob Flanagan, and even punk rock band members they met here. That is Exene Cervenka and John Doe. So it has been a hub for movements of literature over the years. And you can learn more about this really rich history on our website. And also, you can keep up with our upcoming events. I encourage you all to sign up to our newsletter and check out just the myriad of events that we have. We have actually an International Poetry Film Festival coming up. That is on Friday, April 18. We are kicking off with a panel on poetry and cinema with contributors of Beyond Baroque Books' latest anthology, Poetry Goes to the Movies. It was edited by Susanne Loomis. She will be moderating a conversation with a few of the contributors. Some of them are screenwriters, some of them were actresses and actors, and are just having this connection with Hollywood and poetics. So it'll include Beth Ruscio, Harrison Ham, Elena Karina Byrne, and of course our editor, Suzanne. And that will be kicking off the festival, but the following day on Saturday, we will have about 46 films from all around the world based on poetry or embedding poetry into the visuals that we are experimenting with, and I think this year will be one of our most solid collection of films that we've received so far. So invite you all to come to that. It will be happening April 18th and 19th. And we will also be at the LA Times Festival of Books, April 26th and 27th. We'll be having a few author signings at our booth near the poetry stage, and you'll see some wonderful poets come around to that. Other than that, we also continue to host our historic Wednesday night poetry workshop and our fiction night workshop, which is happening every Monday. Those are virtual workshops dedicated to developing participants' literary crafts. And lastly, the arts are facing many challenges at this moment, and your support will go a long way in keeping this place thriving for the community and continue the work we do here. You can become a member for as little as $65, which gives you access to events for free, bookstore discounts for an entire year. And most of all, you are supporting the lifeline of this place directly. After the reading, our bookstore will be open, and we have individual titles of our authors on sale as well. But graciously, our editor, Zachary Jensen, has also provided free copies of the Angel City Review. So definitely gives you space to support another author. A big thank you to the Beyond Broke team, Eric Alberg in the booth, our live stream person, and tech master, directors Quentin Ring, Jimmy Vega, and of course to our staff, Genesis Press, Nick Foreman, who just keep this place alive and thriving. And the biggest thanks goes to our authors and to Zachary Jensen for gathering wonderful lineup of poets and keeping poetry alive on the page through Angel City Review. Congrats on the 10th year anniversary, and looking forward to all the poets this evening and the readings that will come along. So let's give them a warm welcome, and thank you all for being here.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Live, and then I know there's a couple people on the stream. Shout out to Norma and John. A couple people I know on the stream. Thank you for coming. We're celebrating. This is the first official reading for the anthology of Angel City Review. It's a long time coming. This is a project I've been working on since 2014, where it's kind of started initially partially out of boredom, partially out of how do I fit myself into like the literary landscape of LA. One thing that I noticed in Los Angeles is this journal was never one specifically about LA, but we did publish a lot of people from LA. But one thing I noticed about the city is we do have a great breadth of a diversity of writers, of genres, of styles, but they don't really mix that much. Like people on the West Side, they kind of stay on the West Side, and sometimes readings could be extremely white, and sometimes it's okay, but not when a reading is in Chinatown and then every reader is white, and then you're like, okay, why are we here? But not to say any particular space. Any space I'm referencing doesn't exist anymore. Don't take offense. But there are a lot of places that are doing great things. Now as well as before. But again, there was just all these different groups of people, and I wanted to try to find a way to share space together. And so initially we did kind of focus mainly on LA writers, and so it was easy to do readings. We had a lot of great support early on from it wasn't under the umbrella of Angel City Review. We did do a reading at Beyond Baroque in 2015, and we did there was Avenue 50 Studios supported us, which I know Beyond Baroque had a sponsored event today at, so that's a callback to that. But there was some great spaces of community, a lot of writers, and so when I was, I ended up getting a grant to do something for the magazine, and so I was like, well, we're reaching 10 years, I might as well do an anthology, and it only felt fitting to do an anthology specifically on poets from LA that we've published. And it wasn't even that hard to compile a list to where I just wanted it to be very focused. There's been anthologies based on LA poets, or based, on just writers from LA or writing about LA. And sometimes they can be kind of like behemoths of a work that, I wanted something that you can read from start to finish. And so not everybody that I would have wanted necessarily to include are in here, but every person that is in here, I feel like, they wrote something meaningful, as well as they are good literary citizens themselves. Over the years, we've had the pleasure to work with people like, Chi-Won Choi, who, is at one level a great instigator of chaos, but also a person who does genuinely care about, ultimately about, sharing community and literature. Seshu Foster, who I will begrudgingly call out on this for the live stream, forgot that he was traveling. So he can't be here today, but that's okay. But there's a lot of other great people that we've published over the years. We had the pleasure of being the very last place that Dan Fonte ever had a poem published, and he's the son of John Fonte. And so there was an interesting intersection of like his writing journey. Like Bukowski was inspired by his father, and then he was inspired by Bukowski, and so there's a lot of great LA connections there. And then, a few of the people in here, they don't write anymore, but it's like I feel like the work that they wrote was very strong. And so I was just, very proud to put this together. And I'm looking forward to the different readings that we're going to be doing. If you enjoy the reading today, this is just a small sampling. There's, 44 poets in here. I'm not going to be able to do everybody in all the readings, but we'll get at least 30 of them down. And if you go to like our Instagram, Angel City Review, you'll get to see some of the other events that we're doing. But I wanted to launch, the anthology in a space that I feel supports the arts. And, I was happy that Beyond Baroque was happy to do that. And so tonight we have 4 readers, we should, in the house. I'll introduce the bios as they come up, but I'll say their names currently. We're going to start off with Douglas Manuel. I had the pleasure of meeting him through Nikhil Davis, who will be in a later reading in our series of readings where we wrote, love poems to each other. And however you wanted to interpret it, some people wrote really stalkery, weird poems. It was kind of interesting. Some people wrote like really kind of cheesy romantic poems. Some people were longing for them, I wrote like just this like painful observation of like the woes of Douglas's life, and he admired my beard. So, I was very happy to meet him, and I asked him for some work after meeting him, and he was happy to give me work. And actually, as a tie back too, is even when we were just starting, there was a lot of people that believed in what we were doing and would give us work that they weren't really giving work to journals, but they gave us work, and so I really appreciate that. And then after Douglas, we're gonna have a Lizeth de la Luz. And when I was thinking of like who did I want to round out this reading with, she's just out here. If you find her on social media, she's just doing all kinds of things, and people, they just don't always do all that. Like, especially, well, we get tired. I know. Like, I used to do all kinds of things, but I can't anymore. I'm trying to stay home. But and then we got Marcus Clayton. This guy's doing a lot of stuff too. You'll hear about his bio briefly in a minute. And lastly, we probably got Will Alexander, a man that needs no introduction, but we'll give him one when he gets here. But to start us off again is Douglas Manuel. He was born in Anderson, Indiana, and now resides in Long Beach, California very recently after living in, I believe, Whittier. He got a BA in creative writing from Arizona State University, an MFA from Butler University, and a PhD from USC, which also Marcus is just wrapping up. So they got that connection there. He is the author of 2 collections of poetry, Testify and Trouble Funk. And his poems and essays can be found in a lot of places, New Orleans Review being one of them. He's a recipient of the Dana Joya Poetry Award. Thank you for the help. That's always good when that happens. Instead of letting me falter here and then coming up and being like, you couldn't even say it right. He's a fellowship with the Richard Foundation, and he is a professor at Whittier College, as well as he teaches at the Spalding University's low-res MFA. And so we're going to get up for Douglas.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here always, to see Quentin, to see friends. And honestly, I don't know if I've read with Marcus before, so I'm very excited about that. Love it, love it, love it. I can't wait to hear your work as well. Much respect due. And thank you so much, Zach. Honestly, you reaching out, making this happen. Zach's not lying. It was kind of weird. He wrote like a really intense poem, and then like I had to go next. And then I just talked about his beard and how I can only grow a mustache and a goatee and how much I wanted to be like him. So it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird. But at the same time, I really appreciate the close read and the attention to my work. I always feel as though that if anybody's paying attention to the weird things I do at 4 a.m, that I have to, yeah, appreciate it. So I think it's proper. Zach asked if we would read our selections from this awesome Angel City review. So I'm going to do that. And then after that, I think I'll read some new stuff. I got a jam coming out in Plowshares here soon, so I think I'll read that, and maybe I'll read 2 more depending on how this time goes. I was told 10 to 15, so I'm going to go ahead and push the timer, because if you know anything at all about me, I'm a little long-winded, so I don't want to go forever or disrespect the space. So both of the poems are that I'm going to read are from my second book, Trouble Funk. And yeah, each one of the poems are titled after a song my dad liked to spin. My dad was a DJ in the late 70s and early 80s. After each title, I'm going to say a year. That's not, and Quentin and everybody didn't hear me say this a million times, so it's fun. But yeah, that's not the year that the song came out. That's actually the year of the narrative action of the piece. So I'm going to read a couple of those, and then we'll read some new stuff. Way back in the day, I went to a Wu-Tang Clan concert, and like they literally had some new music, and so they were all like, "Do y'all want to hear some new shit?" And then they literally made the crowd over and over again go, "New shit, new shit." So like literally every time I read something that's new, I feel like that I wish the people were yelling new shit. I'm not saying you have to, but like it'd just be cooler if you were. Anyway, here we go. Traffic Jammer, 1973. Nobody really knows how, but everybody really knows how it all started. The way history's more, not less, told from the tip of the tongue, meaning that it's a lie, meaning that it's true to you, but not me, me. Denise isn't crazy. That white boy slapped her booty. The newspaper has some truth, too. It was a cake cutter afro pick that Damon hit that white boy with. Then it was fists, more fists, kicks, knives, and blood. A school closed for a week. Handcuffs, you know who wore them. Damon and his friends, all of them, none of the white boys, none of the teachers who cast their eyes aside has white fists found black faces, has baseball bats and balls and chemistry beakers, flasks, and test tubes became weapons, has the locker room doors slammed shut on black skulls. Outnumbered, as usual. Behind enemy lines, as usual, stacked in the back of cop cars, as usual. But no silent, swinging bodies this time. No silent, swinging bodies this time. Toast to the Fool, 1983. They kissed as if each other's mouth was the cure for a disease they both carried for so long they forgot they had it. A disease no doctors could spot. A sickness that was beyond the eyes of their cousins, aunties, uncles, their grandmas, their grandpas, their mamas there. They both didn't have no daddies. They kissed as if the kiss was the last thing they would do with their lives, as if the horns of the inn were loud in their ears, the ground was shifting below them, about to take them forever under. They both could always see the end of things, the lastness of last always on. A dead daddy is a long, 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 long song. They kissed as if they were free, as if the color of their skin didn't scar a target around their bodies, as if the law couldn't make them crawl, the police with their guns drawn. They kissed as if their bodies were sacred and safe instead of scarce and sacrilegious. They kissed, they kissed, they kissed, as if music saves, as if love saves, because it does. Let's hope it does. It saves. Love saves. It saves. It doesn't. So let's do some new stuff. Let's do some new stuff. Oh, thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Last AWP, going to Kansas City, I got on the plane, and then when we were going to the airport, like going to AWP is quite the tornado for me. I have a 2-year-old. So yeah, we were carrying the mini human. It was all the things that going to LAX is with a mini human. And I kept on getting calls from Indiana over and over and over again. And I kept on doing like a lot of us do when home calls, and you're like, that's not a job for present Doug. That's a job for future Doug. And so I did that over and over again. And this is the thing we always don't think or don't want to happen when you do that. As soon as I land, I check my message and Dougie, I have bad news. So I end up learning that my father had died. And yeah, if you know anything about my work, a lot of my work is about searching for my dad, trying to get closer to my dad. He was in prison a lot of my life, and he also fell victim to the crack epidemic. So yeah, it was very stunning. It was almost vertigo inducing. But yeah, because that happened very soon after that, I did what all of us writers always do, try to scribble my way through it. So this is one of the first pieces that I wrote about him. And yeah, like I said, this is in the new Plowshare. So here we go. The fact my father has died. Slap me today, open hand, swiftly across my face. Like he did, would a gunshot flame set the block, the night, the sky alight. I don't know why I'm not the only one who matters, the only one sitting on the bed, head in hands, shoulders trembling, as water does before it falls from a leaf. A reply, not rush. Me stood before me, alone. I nearly fell. The heat, the palm, made on my face, doesn't leave. Touch my face, dear reader, and feel fire. Some more new stuff. Ars Poetica. Of course, for those who don't know, but you're always supposed to assume your audience is smarter than you. So maybe I won't say that, right? Let's not say what that. Let's not be Professor Doug. He's really annoying. Sometimes when my wife and I are talking, she's always like, "Don't professor me. Don't professor me." So I won't professor you. Ars Poetica. Do not look at the speaker, listener, reader. Do not scrub floors spotless. You need the dirt, the soot, the visage, the vestige. Do not buy a whole life you couldn't live without. Gentle reader, gentle please. I keep soiled, keep twist, keep tar, keeps soot, bubbling. A little boy, no. A man playing little. Boy, play, 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 play. Aren't you having fun? Be good company. My name is too pretty a name to enter, to live in. I think I might do this one and then just one more after this. Y'all feeling all right? That's cool? That's cool? All right. This one's called Lullaby. Night waters stump my eyelids, bare feet, coarse, soles, toenails. Please run fingers through my black curls. Run fingers through my black curls, just to write, to sew. I know how I read the words of the dead scratched or spilled on a page. The book won't speak back, black boy. The book won't speak back, black boy, because you're not in it. You're not dead. What a scene, a pillow, darn your skull close. Drown, stitch yourself together with your own hair. All right, let's grab one more and then we'll get out of here. Gotta see what files it's in. Instead, I'll get out with something from Testify. Take it back a little bit. This one's called Fishing. I hear my cell phone voicemail, and I'm afraid. The times start the moment I begin measuring it, the way I was just a baby until I was named. Once my tongue loosed words, there was nothing to talk about. Hunting and pecking, I found my way. The picture of the wall is of me only because my mother told me. I drag my nails across my flesh. Someone told me every 7 years were brand new. If only we'd leave skins like cicadas. If I believed in Jesus, I'd ask to touch the wounds. It's not me moving, it's the dark. Black hides on both sides of the mind. No one tells the maple leaves to let go. I cannot catch the sun, although I've wrapped it in a vowel and 2 consonants. Thank you so much. Aw, thanks, guys.
I'll give it up for Doug. That was great. He's very Duggable, as we were saying earlier. You know, it's a call back to a conversation in the bookstore. So up next, we have Lizeth de la Luz. And as I mentioned before, she's just out here. She's doing a lot of things right now. Whenever I look at her social media, she's at a reading, being like a supporting viewer, reading, you know, doing things just, you know, out there. And I believe you have a child too, and you're still just doing it, you know. You can learn from, Doug can learn, you know, he's trying to carry his little baby around. But, you know, without further ado, Lizeth is a poet, writer, editor, and a teaching artist from Southern California. She writes about the frustration of language barriers, learned barriers, and the anxieties of living, loving, grieving in a Mexican body in the United States. Her work has been published in Latina Literatures, Acentos Review, and Stone Coast Review, among other publications, as well as being in our anthology. And she's one of the more newer writers that we have in here, because Marcus will be one of the older, well, as in not age, but as in publication. So without further ado, Lizeth de la Luz.
Hello, 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 hello. I'm Lizeth de la Luz. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be, one, here at Beyond Broke. This is incredible. And then two, thank you, Zach, for inviting me to be part of the first in the series of readings. I hope you go to all of them. I'll probably be at all of them too. And I'm really, really excited to be in conversation with everybody. So I host a lot of community events because I feel like something that we need now too is more community, especially when or you're a new writer or there's emerging writers. No community is really tough. So I just hosted a soiree probably like a week ago or 2 weeks ago to connect OC writers with LA writers. And that was really, really cool. I'll be having more of those. But I'm out there kind of doing all of the things. I'm doing all the readings. I'm getting community together. I'm getting people to come together and just be in space, especially right now with everything that is going on. So I am a Mexican American writer, and a lot of what I write about is everything. I didn't just want to focus on the sad and the stress, but also the falling in love and being in love and grieving and being a mom right now. As I hold those communities events, and my son's often there with me too. He's 4 years old. But one thing he will not see his mom be is sad, especially not in where we are right now. So I invite him to come over to party, to be at the mic. And that was something that I did with my parents too, because my dad was a musician growing up and a poet, and I was just by his side all the time. So this is In the Subtleties. I'll read a series of poems. I have 3 here, and then one of my favorites, and maybe one extra one. So this one's In the Subtleties. How do we preserve in us, in moments de promesa, after quiet nights moonlit our shadows, donde empieza, en nuestras manos, as we cross the streets moving a little closer to our steps, en nuestros ojos, mientras nos balanceamos de lo que podría ser, or on our lips as we say hello. Affectionate patience, trace the divine in me, por la madrugada and through coffee stains. Quédate hasta enero. Create your worlds here. Repurpose your dark nights with me. And if you're following along, because you should have a copy, on 130 is Dandelion Tuft. And I learned the difference between craving and needing, and learned to shape hunger, learned to store taste under my tongue, to pour over the not todays, a gentle kiss to be trapped and to readjust, to be a dandelion tuft. And then on 130, we have The First Visit, and this is one of my more favorite poems. And thank you again for including this one. This is about my grandmother, so I haven't seen her in a very, very long time. Last time I was very, very young, probably younger than my kiddo right now. And she came to visit us because we haven't been able to go over there. So this was the first visit. I have been talking about you in the past tense, remembering stories from my father's memory and what I can piece together from photographs of the outskirts of my last trip to Mexico. 2005 in a booster seat to spend my birthday with family I thought I'd never see again in flesh. And I'd be lying if I said I hadn't planned out everything I'd say, and the apologies for not being able to visit. But to have you come to us, and for me to see my father be a son, and see your smiles I've only known in pictures explode with laughter. I got to see the continuation of frame, and introduce you to your bisnieta who I did not know pondered like you. And for you to see a family that grew out of weeds and poured into sunrises. I planned to say hola, abuelita, and feel your embrace before the hello spilled, fragmented, sprinkled with a pinch of eyes not strong enough to hold memory readjust, and all I wanted to do was be. Thank you. So those are the ones that I have in Angel City Review. I'm exclusively a literary magazine poet, so you will find me just in literary magazines. And this is your friendly reminder to support your literary magazines. That's where this was first, was for all of you with Zach's amazing and incredible project. And congratulations on 10 years. So you can find literary magazines everywhere, especially those that have students and are student run. We have like community colleges ones at undergrad institutions, and MFA programs have those too. So just keep checking those, submit to them, read them, support them. This one's Stowe Coast Review, which is one of my favorite poems that I have too. I think we spoke briefly about this one. This one's the Rio Grande. This was published probably like last year, 2 years ago. Underwater you are still, an iridescent trace of corners peeled. Sunbeam and sunset stay with us, soul and dust, whisper of flame and hand you bloom, in no ripple drifting by in your mother's eye, silence of voice, in gasp, in want, in need, in exhaustion and agitation, in dissociated memory, recalling phone calls, singing amidst the clings of music and the counts of laughter, body breathless. Steps making way through the waters of sound to reach your mother, to find her awakened by gritting teeth, a fragrant of silence in a body so still, it grew out of her and stirred the beats and swings and taps, to be a tongue so restless, to be ash and to be lost in mornings and miles of you. She was held tightly, violet and Sunday, seeking the divine in a room of sun and soil, in untaught silence we know of someone's child and someone's family and blood, through rivers and mountains, and to not forget unforgiving country. We remain in place, listen to her scream, molten and awake. So being a Mexican-American poet, there is a lot to the conversation of writing through body, of writing with the body. And sometimes it is pleasant and sometimes it is hard. And these conversations are hard, but they're conversations we have to continue to have, especially now. This one is Self-Portraits of Borderlands. To know you are a physical body, until you are uprooted and unearthed, until you are dug out, marked and measured, reconstructed with stitches of rails and panels, preparing a protruding barricade, confining the unknown, the ignored through fractions of image. Do not forget, brave borderlands, I whisper to you. You are a physical space that bends and waves, a construct, a part, a whole, an identity, the duality of a want, an ideology, an exchange of ideas, exchange of commodities, a pendulum, a sundial, an interaction, a breath, a result of texts that yell out in tongues of tremendous rest, a battleground, a reuniting hug, and a soul and goodbye. You see it all, and yet you are unmoved by the shifts, knowing you'll be a bridge to home. And I'll do two more. This one is A Mother's Plea. When does the prospective space of me and perception stop hurting? When can I exist without eyes beaming our hands? I've been promised eternal peace after each degree, a CV crafted as long as sleep, heavy debt as collateral. Tell me what I need to do to keep my family safe. To stop the forced calm in my body and to extinguish nervous tears, to control the anxious breaths as we merely exist in public. When will we stop being just bodies? When can we finish a conversation? When can we ask for directions? When can we make it home? And this one, I'll end on this one. This one's Tall Brown Child. She asks me how tall he is before she asks me his age, and is surprised by the sunflower seed, surprised of the roots that expand upward, not knowing that he carries the story of his people, of lands and storms near and far within his little fingers, how his expressions are a replica of oceans and mountains. In name, he'll speak of nightfalls and sunrises, whispered through the ears of her mother and through the ears of her mother. As she wandered and roamed, golden footprints, acres, trees fruitful, and across the lineage, feet that glided through mango trees. How his strength comes of his people that fought the sun and watered the soil, of people awake before light and shadows. His body absorbing that energy, stored it in his bones to expand and move him closer to the edge of the sky so that one day he could blow toward the sun, dim the heat, and allow rest to fall within the body. Thank you. And thank you again for having me.
And thank you again to Lizeth. That was a beautiful selection of poetry. And see, that's another thing I really enjoyed about the journal is, we're bringing together people that some have, many books under their belt. Some, when they first published, didn't have any books and now have, some books and some awards as our buddy next coming up, Marcus Clayton has, and we have people who are starting to just build their their writing CV. But again, as I mentioned earlier, Marcus was one of the earliest people to submit to the journal, and I really appreciate that. Like, people didn't know what Angel City Review was at the time. I was lucky enough to. I had asked a couple people. Like I mentioned, Dan Fonte. I asked him. I asked F. Douglas Brown. Just a few people I knew, but I was happy to see just the different submissions that we were getting during that period. And Marcus was one of them. And as he semi-jokingly, but also truly claims, he'll be reading some very old poems today because these were in, I believe, issue 2. So that was a long time ago. It was what, 2015, 2016? So yeah, so that was issue 3 then. So these were some quite old poems, but he'll read some new stuff. He has a lot of things going on. But go ahead and introduce him. So Marcus Clayton is a multi-genre Afro-Latino writer from Southgate, California, with an MFA in poetry from CSU Long Beach. And currently he's wrapping up. He's about to do his dissertation in a PhD in literature and creative writing at USC, focusing on the intersections between Latinx literature, Black literature, decolonization, and punk rock. And celebration as well. He just had his book Punk come out with Night Boat Books, and that's a beautiful book as well. I picked it up at AWP, and you guys should also pick it up too. And be on the lookout for his launch reading coming. Hope maybe he'll throw that out there.
Hello. Ooh, it's over there. Thank you, Zach, for having all of us gather today. There's a weird little thing about me and names, like because your signature. We were communicating mostly through like online stuff. So like your signature says, Zachary, Jensen. So I've just been like, hello, Zachary, or like, hi, Zachary, and stuff like that. So like everyone here is saying, thanks to Zach. I'm like, oh, thank God, I can start calling him Zach. Zachary's such a weird fucking name right now. On a personal, on like a conversational level, But thanks for having us, and it's interesting. Like, yeah, these are very old poems. My professor at the time, William Moore, Bill Moore, however you call him, like he's a big proponent of Beyond Baroque, and he's also like a big fan of like literary magazines. And he through the grapevine found out about just a review, and told his at the time students, i.e. me, and other folk who are in this volume too, about the journal. And then we got the chance. We are in, and some of us are in this collection now, and it's a lovely time capsule, and so I'm going to do. I do weird things at every reading I ever do, but and today's no exception. So today I'm going to read both poems. One I'm going to read cold, like I haven't read it since 2016. The other one, I was like reading it at home. I'm going to read it a little bit differently. And as was mentioned, I released a book it's multi-genre. It says fiction on the back, but there's a lot of like poetics and lyrical bits in the book that I'm going to read out of context, because I just think it's funny to read stuff out of context sometimes. But the words sound pretty, so I guess that will make up for that. I'm also very stringent on time, so I'm gonna time myself as well, like Doug did. And we'll see if I am the final reader or not. So let's do this thing. I'm not gonna give you any names. I'm just gonna read until I'm done reading. But I promise you this. I promise you this. I promise you this. I'm gonna read some depressing as fuck things, but I'm going to end. I will end this with a joke. I swear to you. Okay, so I'm gonna flip back and forth. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Don't try to keep up. Just don't mind me. All right. They're as common as weeds, but you, well, you're blue roses. But blue is wrong for roses from Glass Menagerie. 1. Bleached red petals plucked from stem, spiraled on concrete bench, mirrored each other in floral fringe. I cannot ground, cannot see past chain doors of Angel City. You claim to towel off the puddles set down your coat to lick like dog bowls from cracks in the 6th Street exit, making sure not to spill a drop for thirsty tramps to tongue. We drink dirty blonde ales under low lights hum. IPAs, one less for parking, one less. We settle slips from your grip into one less for Angel City, cold as confusion that separates the we when a collar ashed with frozen scars swatted away by our shoulders, put a pink tail slink between the knees of a set of palms to the moon with hands gripping quarters in skinny Levi's. We have never seen rats skate just off the 10 with eyes. A motel in the projects. Nighttime. Pops walks downstairs to enter the maroon sedan Mama is driving. German Shepherd surrounds the car like sharks, but Pops shoos them away by name. The chocolate on his cheek lost its color. Silence in the car weighs wheels down to slow crawl home. I am 8 years old. Sit in the back seat. Ask Pops for a video game. Mama originally said no. Gets mad because I ask again. Furiously yells the name they gave me at birth. Now I'm a teenager in a puny Southeast LA house, playing video games with my bedroom door open. In my peripherals, Pops walks into the kitchen, puke crusted on his white t-shirt. His shoulders lean on a broken and elevated oven because his legs shake too much. I'm old enough to not ask questions anymore. Pops stumbles into my room wearing only underwear. Pops grabs my guitar, a semi-functioning black and white Squier Stratocaster, a Christmas present from Mama, but signed from both parents, and strums mindlessly. Pops hums an Elvis tune, laughing. I am more afraid than ever that I don't understand Pops' laughter. Fear forces me to snatch the guitar back. We struggle for control until the guitar flies out of our hands and into my video games. The neck is broken. The strings are cut. Game discs shatter. Pops is still laughing. Later, a year, Pops and Mama and I watch Ray in theaters. Pops and Mama and I watch Jamie Foxx portray legend Ray Charles. Pops, Mama, and I watch this milestone in Black culture undercut by drugs. All the drugs. Jamie Foxx and Ray Charles, as Ray Charles, convulses in a rehab bed, falls off a few times. A doctor turns on a light, and Jamie Foxx, as Ray Charles, is scared. Nurse tries to relax him, but he fights their arms away. Coughs brutalize his sleep. Regurgitation choke his toilet. I have never seen this movie, but I know this scene blow for blow. Fiction, nonfiction, based on nonfiction, I just know within my bones this scene is true. Pops is immobile as he stares at the screen. Mama is crying. 2. Bush with red daisies hung over them like a chandelier. He crossed legs in chucks, a body's width apart, facing each other like a joust, her eyes on petals torn with fingers like eyes on her torn fingers. 3. Do you want to kiss an artist with cat scratches around her palms? She paints a red parasol with petals as you two sit alone, converse about Neil Gaiman, not a good name anymore, Ginsberg, maybe even Tennessee Williams. Do not inch forward. Look for crows hung from her eyes. Perfect white stained circles around her finger. Look at flowers, no longer paint, but a cataclysm of flares. But we wonder who shoved a blade through Elliott Smith's heart. In the underground plump black bellies with parasites, Muhammad is this punishment we did not put bombs we cannot use for our art. We cannot see as the knives between our teeth we use to cut guns. We do not own guns. We do not need as much. Torn from Mama's breast, worse than 41 bullets. Torn from our throats, worse than baby's hold hoodie. Enter 12 hearts. We heard the First Amendment rivals 8,583 shaken like a spine when we heard bullets, lips fast, fists shaken at Hummers barreling down main rumble. Our pork pies rounded matching curly cues. Above spirits grips in V's. Our Kurt Vile crooned into our ears. Missiles, they will not be for, our slingshots, our America. Blame the knife against James Franco's pen launch. We did not carry Hibachi's blame. Our parents' fingers trucked pitch black 92 street lights, our hands too small, shake like pinball at 82 RIP, like a spine and a police. Our mouths should be wild hummingbird wings. Je suis Charlie when our tongues are threatened. Let's lace boots to throats of Baltimore blacks. Let's sing. Where'd you go? There you are. Ma is 30 and celebrates her birthday in the hospital. I have only been alive for 1 month, but my lungs have already failed. It started with food unable to enter my stomach, but wheezing frightened her the most. To this day, she doesn't remember the disease's name, but maybe that's the way to kill the poison of memory. She watches incubators spread past the viewing window like a minefield. I am a scorched shell. Nurses asked if she needs coffee or water or food. Mama fights to not say, I want air in my baby's lungs. Can you get me that? Instead, no thank you. With barren breasts, eyes locked on her suffocating bomb, she refuses to admit she never wanted children, never wanted a child to know how painful it is to fight to live. America meant to let us live without ailment. Your newborn is already dying. Ma prays I will find language to say, I'm okay now. The disease will let me live, and my stomach will have a deep scar on the right side of my abdomen. Mama looks at the wound as a reminder of the battles she wanted me to avoid, whose fists still found my bones soon after I am diffused. Mama decides against the second child. Her tubes are tied. She argues with Pops, who hoped for me to have siblings. This hope lasts years, a lifetime. But Mama doesn't fear an umbilical cord around her baby's neck anymore. Rosary beads no longer fissure her palms. 30 years later, the scar still brands me like a prison tattoo. Like any good child of an old-fashioned Latina, I keep my shirt on around her to hide the ink, to keep her thinking my skin is pure. Mama is 39. I ask her politely for a sibling, brother, sister, someone else to call her mother. I wait for her answer, confused by her tears. 4. Do you want to kiss a boy? Stairs burn the top of your head, white noise slipping through your teeth as you nervously sculpt a sun out of daisies and wait for the real one to go down. Maybe it will fall into earth or erase everything like the wind does, the patterned petals that distract from seared valves opening into your chest. Erase the diamond resting in your pocket. Erase the red spilled onto the floor. No, cops would not put holes in us even with the sun down and be thankful our legs still work to order another drink. But let's call it charity when one hobbles by our herd. We hope our second hand is not swallowed by vagabonds. We play What Do You See in the Clouds with our plumes. Every hour we smoke and catch our dead breath in night air. They have to play How Soon Is Now once an hour. Bartenders eye fucking for tips, swirling mixers like batons, ankles curled by 40-minute lines and 40 heads ahead. We are the oppressed voices drowned out by the speakers, bedbugs sucked thighs and stale whiskey dancing in the teeth, fabric chewed away by mites and patched with spider webs. We do not have to cross the street and live in tents for cocktail specials and Las Perlas' best tequila mixes. Quarters 3, 4, then pocket the change for bartenders. We step over her to feed a hungry meter. 1 quarter, 2 in the red tea in 50-degree air and warmed by bulb spatter. Warms a dirty blonde lying on a sidewalk in leopard print. Blue lights blanket cold concrete in buzzed fluorescence. Then a girl no older than 10 Man's daughter they assumed, ambushed the soldiers. She surprised Elpisa, shoved him to the floor, and snatched his pistol and balisong. She aimed the pistol at the sergeant's head, but Elpisa regrouped fast enough to fire M4 rounds into the little girl. The force of the bullet spun her around with a violent ballet. Her feet twirled on the floor, the balisong fluttering to the ground and contorting as if performing interpretive dance. Her eyes stayed open as she hit the ground, as though capturing the world one more time before death, as though trying to find butterflies she would never catch, ones not made from steel. 5. Below the bench, inside a backpack tattooed in stitches, a rose, petals blue as blood, that shoots away from lungs. Above, dust skates over clouds like a skipped stone. 6. Solar flare dispersed, red petals caked under chucks. Blue rose suffocates. This woman is playing a serious game of blackjack, is on her last few dollars. She's not religious, but decides this is the time to start praying. God answers her, says, on the next hand, you must hit, my child. She's dealt a 5 and a 2. She hits, gets a 7. God says, on the next hand, you must hit, my child. She hits, gets a 6. She is at 20. She needs an ace, feels it's too risky, but God says, you must hit. My child, trust in me. She hits. She gets a 5. She busts at 25. God says, fuck! That's it.
Promised us a joke, but he gave us a jump scare. That's all right. And with perfect timing, we have our last reader of the night, Will Alexander, who I came to know through a good friend of mine, Anthony Seidman, who will be reading in one of the series. He's sick tonight, so he's not attending. But he wasn't going to be reading tonight, though. But Will we could have an entire book of just his bio. He's done a lot of amazing things. He's the poet in residence at Beyond Baroque, but the bio we have in the anthology is Will Alexander is a writer, artist, philosopher, and pianist. Was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, in 1948, and has remained a lifetime resident of the city. He earned a BA in English and creative writing from the University of California, Los Angeles in 1972. Alexander's over 24 books of poetry include Across the Vapor Gulf in 2017, Compression and Purity in 2011, The Sri Lankan Loxodrome in 2009, Asia and Haiti in 1995, and many, many more books. He has taught at many colleges and universities, including the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics and the University of California, as well as Hofstra University, among others. And please welcome Will Alexander.
Innominate panorama. This is being a rush of myth and vapor. There exists a panoramic fog of poetic jackals' blazes, appearing on lower planes as froth of refraction. Here, there exists the scarlet base of bluish jaguars' ink, of sculpted swans within the air of seminal polar initiation, not unlike the dialectics of water, having the somnolent power of vertiginous cobalt emanation. Each meadows of ferociousness bleeding like a naked armistice of smoking sanguinary flowers, evolving higher and higher into hakias of crystal, into elliptical meridians far beyond protoplasmic complication. One then sees the realm of lighted Emphian pheasants flying in circles in a violet unicorn's palace, where there electrically proliferates ozonal spells, osmotic snows, being flates of rainbow jonquils, transcending the dark of oily dragon fang auroras. For me, poetry has to keep its height all the time. As once said about Eric Dolph, he always heard higher, hear higher. So you're going to hear as high as one can be at one stage of development. So I'm always hearing as high as I can. And, one's always evolving. So one is never at a static state. This is a small poem, a poem that was done many years ago. I didn't even know I'd see it again. Here it is. Sun in the Marcians, in the Ophiogene, in the clan of the Senegambia, as blood bearer, as plesiosaur's odor, like a spell encrypted with python dice, invisibly worn like medieval armulasses, so that one's inner cobalt simmers, taking on a kind of Jensen impersonation, coming into view as perfect cultural aurora. Perhaps as gorgeous Aztec obsidian, riding a purplish Appaloosa into the tubularian waves of the Syrian Orontes, knowing its seasonal aridity to be of smoking gallstone amber, to be of telepathic orality, not unlike eruptive synesthesia or Euphratean cosmic irrigation. There exists in the theophany of exile lavas, its icy masonry of peril, its heavenly ice hunt shadows, its curious downpour obscuration. From its hexagonal glyphs, a livid avalanche of particles pouring as carnivorous X-ray diamonds, seen at first glimpse as murky alkaline vectors, as savage pituitary forces that fuels our fabulous power of blood, igniting through clouds its winds from crystal lava trees, not unlike upper angelic dialogical enunciation, being aural stellar mysteriums, coiled via strabismus, as Persian butterfly pyrotechnics. Thus the sun, with its meteoritic equators, spewing incandescent solar brooks into risky jubilation of darkness, so that the human soul sups from its forces, from its blank neutrino winds, from its cosmic nephilimsy vents, swirling within the pineal eye, instantaneous photon blizzards. This being the energy of trance, a blazing phantasmal symbology like the oscillating core or primordial ochre, rubies, all the while feeding Saturnian quatrains of agricultural tsunamis, which spurs, having erupted into sonorous endurance as diurnal sundials in movement, connecting to other solar cascades as vitreous neutrino from Andromeda, there being puzzling utterance rivers, greenish iceberg swarmings, lit up as phosphorus ointments, rising again as communal Indian integument. The solar form as lion power rhythmic, as boiling termite flower, as velvet solitary riddle, where the sky expands as an oracular canyon being, as an aural flare crashing into rivulets, turning to greenish macaw stars erupting from branches. And, poetry, for me, is an arc of real living. Every split second is consumed by my next inventions. I never try to talk about anything else but what I'm doing. And I don't mean that literally, but I mean to my own selves. I'm always in, what's the word for it? When you have the dialogue within yourself, so colloquy within, a colloquy from within. And I'll read a couple more from earlier volume of the Sri Lankan Loxodrome from New Directions. And this is called poem, A Nexus of Phantoms. In a lorikeet cave, motions exist of disintegrated swans in a translocated lake brimming with harvested poisons sealed by corruptive postmortems. Such swans staggered by microbial reasoning, their aggressive nest anatomical with anomaly, with drifts of strenuous incarnadine leanings, with a thirst which hurdles conspiratorial invasives, alive with coronal oceanics, open like a clouded trail of rendings. Analogous with the auks, the pelicans, the mergansers, perhaps with the petrels and the gannets under the power of darted mocking orations. The swans looking back on solemn blood perusal like a form of death breaking roses on the shore. It is the example of phonograms, of lost and compacted lenses turning within a charismatic fall line, or an isoneff, or what an avian would announce in Greenland as a catabolic wind. The swans, like a haze of magnetism or implied gondola locations, where the scent of each lorikeet is consumed and brought to dazzling eclipse refulgence. In another foci, in another depth, their form self-challenged in a cloak of suns, their power de-revealed with 7 moons burning, reduced to 2 intense incendiary magnets. And these incendiary magnets, like a nexus of phantoms, scattered across a geometric optometry. And I'll close with a longer piece from the same volume. It's about the odyssey of a quantum sailor. It's called The Bedouin Art. It's a little longer piece. Repetition as de-existence, as condoned in respun vapor, which continues to post-exist as mirages across an arc, as lucid underwater scent, an arc with its compression of oars, with its one simultaneous ascent over and above the simultaneous as movement, its obliterated form where the body of the captain reappears and disappears, eruptive with schisms and salts, eruptive with cobias, blanquillos, and starfish, extrinsic and solstitial to any forewarned destination, to any leprosy or rupture or fragment. An arc, at the same time betrayed and withdrawn through an index of phantoms like a squall beneath a stunning alabaster tide, invigorated by pre-existing persons within its hull, spawned by a runic simum calendric, by fields of gnarled lava, predaceous orange-brown spider crabs feeding in diametrical coldness. The arc, now again visible to itself, emits volcanic flamelets, fanning anonymous blades of crushing underwater jade. The wind around its hull, a void pusillanimous optometry, a shell of scorched bottoms, a mechanics exponentially concussive like a solitary benzene, or an earthquake phylum, or a riddle scorpion typhoon. Beneath this arc, captained by scaleless ghosts, scripting their foundations from methanes, from a sound with a stinging pottery of nerves, like murmurs from a hatchet well, scribbling maps, inducing subtractive protein on chemosynthetic shock waves of vertigo. So in the depths of bioluminescence, a void, a glassy conduit of ore, a propulsive cilia, a whip-like chimera. The captain scripting these events in a geometric log concerning the brackish flare from his burning central body. A body below creatrix waters, a body below the simulation of the trilobites. So that there constantly exists a smokeless anti-existence, which seemingly enshrouds a multiple quantity or a glare, much in the form of a stock nucleic food stock, like a summed explosive strife, which is the terra incognita, the fearful archaeology of fate. The ark, failing to illumine its former maritime amniotic by means of any purposeful or magic diorthosis, or any of the perplexing tonics of salinity, or by the Gorgonian as form of body by persona, be it the pelvic whale or the caudal dolphin, the body of the captain, a blank indeterminate ether, a smoldering solstice phantom, a soma beyond the depth of his former viewing range, superseding the diameter of boron, and the arc of the captain, conflagrant as anti-causality, which post-exists disintegration. The captain in possession of colorless Bedouin's blood, complex, burning, igniting light by carbohydrates. Then just as quickly creating mass in a hydrozoic sea by means of insidious noctiluca inside the fire of diaphanous algae. The captain, as voice of the dinoflagellates, as interior transpercuity, now as translocated ember, as photonic Bedouin archery, with a sudden grasp of stunning neural ranges, electrokinetic and spectral with maturity. He who now thrives without name, floating throughout inverted lightning hills. Perhaps his darting appellation is hexagramidae, or a goatfish burin, or a form which takes form within Peruvian garuas. At the level of a subdivided spheroid, yet no longer taking of the decigram or the quintal. In an unknown zone such as the German East Pacific or Dutch Borneo peninsulas, like dark imaginary climates, floating beneath a fragment of broken imaginal isles, drifting beyond the confines, or pharmaceutical calculus, gathering incandescent distance in a zone like Lake Ormia or the powers of Coco Noir. No longer of the realm of geometrical siroccos, of prone and caustic emblematics, the world now fallen into a cryptic bay of moons far beyond the connivance extracted from the Kama or the Paraguay rivers. Not as gnomic projection, nor dazed submission to funeric engulfment, the captain no longer of an ashram of vectors, or a typographic geyser in a void. He exists at nervous solitary limit, his former vibrations obliquitous, vulpine, indigenous to the moisture of flashes. The Bedouin arc, an exploded viral dove, a predaceous anti-fixation, disappearing at the level of the Leucoselenius, then the wasp, the sessile medusas, the hydrozoan jellyfish, like obliterated bells, like the eye in depolarized coronas, seeing susurras, seeing fire in the form of entangled isolations, in the arc of a neuron, in the spark of a dark infinity, Thank you for your time.
And thank you for all the readers. Thank you for those that came in person. For those of you in person, there's free copies of the anthology in the bookstore. Feel free to take a couple if you'd like. For those of you that were watching the live stream, there'll be a couple copies here, as well as you can contact us and we'll send you a copy. I want to close out this with, again, I had mentioned Dan Fonte. We had the last poem that he ever published, and it was the first poem that was included in our first issue, and it's the first poem in our anthology. So I just wanted to read that and to close the night. And again, thank you, everybody. So, Lost in Ravenna by Dan Fonte. If your lover is a dog, love dogs. If your heart is in the sea, love the sea. If your feet are on the sand of the desert, love the desert. But nothing is to be gained here on my broken TV set without life's gift of uncertainty. No peace, no enduring love, no self-contained paradise can or will be mine until I appreciate my own lostness. Perhaps then I am Dante or Caligula, but who I am really is not what I considered myself to be. I am a being within a being, a heart beating within a heart, a whisper contained within a scream. I am the tiles on your church floor and the shit on your streets. I am the greatest friend and my most hated enemy. I am a part of history and the hope of the future. I am the man next to you on the train or your most feared executioner. I am my own best friend in a world of orchestrated chaos. In fact, I am a piece of eternity. I am who I say I am. Strangely, my experience is that man is most perfect when he believes himself to be lost. Thank you.